All right, all right. So it is another check-in, y'all, in the 72-hour fast that I'm on. And tonight we're going to talk about changing my Dexcom. Right, as you guys know, I'm wearing two monitors. I've got one Dexcom, one Libre, and my Dexcom expired just a couple of hours ago, maybe less than an hour. But I need to change that. And so I thought tonight we'll go through that process of actually changing it. But as you know, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, y'all, new year, new you, we're talking to adults with type 2 diabetes. How do we put your diabetes in remission? How do we get off of some of that diabetes medication? In fact, how do we reverse your diabetes? Hey, welcome, welcome. If you're new, go ahead and put new in the chat because we'd love to welcome you with some music and a hand clap. And we would love to also answer questions. So if you have questions as we go throughout the evening, go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will get to those as we move through our conversation here tonight. Well, you know, guys, as you guys know how we do, I've got my meters, I've got my reports that we're going to take a look at here in just a minute. You know, say here's my meters that are over here. And we're going to take a look at those. I've also got my report that we're going to look at, and the Dexcom that's right there is a Dexcom. It won't have the numbers for the last hour and a half or so, but we will look at what we do have. And we are, like we always do, going to just hop over and do our check-in tonight. All right, so how am I feeling physically? Number one, I am, and once again, this is the check-in because I am on a 72-hour fast, 72 hours, and we are now 51 hours into the fast. And a lot of people ask questions, well, how are you feeling? And physically right now, I'm feeling good. Earlier today, I actually felt as though my blood sugars are dropping. You guys, if you've had hypoglycemia, you know what that feels like. That kind of jittery, anxious feeling. And I checked my numbers, and my blood sugar was actually 84 at the time. So I know I could not have been hypoglycemic or having symptoms of hypoglycemia, and I'm not on any of the medication, right? So I know the medication wasn't doing anything either. So I began thinking, well, what was it that was causing this? And it turns out, you know, this week, you know, I've got a lot of things going on. In fact, in a day or so, I'm going to be doing a couple of presentations. And so the cortisol level that is surging in me, right? So remember, anxiety, anticipation, excitement, all of that feels exactly the same. And so I thought, well, maybe that's what's going on. So I got up, I was in my wife's office, got up, and I went for a walk. And so I walked for about 20, maybe 25 minutes or so, and I felt better. Okay, so I burnt off some of that cortisol, calmed down a little bit, relaxed, and that feeling went away. Okay, so one of the great things about the fasting process is now I'm able to feel those symptoms and begin now to process, to say, hey, okay, what is causing that? I know it can't be low blood sugars because my blood sugars are actually good, right? So what else could be causing it? And in this process, or in this case, we kind of walked through and came up, okay, we think that this is what's happening right now, hypoglycemia. All right, so that's how I'm feeling physically right now. I'm feeling energetic. Came home, went outside, you know, did some yard work, and then came in, had a meeting a little earlier tonight, and yeah, just feeling good. So mentally, I'm feeling clear. Once again, the jitteriness, the anxiety, the excitement that I felt earlier did not affect any of my thought process, and so excited about that, right? Because one of the things that happens sometimes is when we start to feel those symptoms, we'll feel a little cloudy. None of that right now. And then emotionally, got several things checked off of my list for today, so that's always exciting. And you know, got a chance to spend some time talking with my son earlier. I had this meeting, as I mentioned, and am excited to get ready or to get to do these talks over the weekend. So emotionally, I'm feeling good. All right, so not feeling any issues at this point. So I'm glad for that. All right, so let's take a look at what our blood sugars are doing. And right now, I only will be able to show you the Libre. The Libre right now says that my blood sugar is 70. And I can't show you the Dexcom because the Dexcom is actually off right now, right? So it's not, I've got to put a new one on, which we'll be doing here in just a minute. But let's also hop over and let's see what my actual blood sugars are on these monitors. As you all know, I have a Contour and I have a Keto Mojo that I use. The Keto Mojo, of course, gives us blood sugar, and it also gives me the ketones. So let's go ahead and get one of these strips out and get that into the Contour. It's right here. And then we'll go ahead and put a strip into the Keto Mojo. Get these guys out of the way. And then, of course, as I do with my old type Lancet, I have some of the newer ones here somewhere, one of the ones we use in the office. But I just actually take a finger, y'all. And for those of you who are out there, sometimes I have people say to me all the time, hey, I did do a stick and I didn't get any blood. Sometimes what happens is if it's cold, if your extremities are cold, then the blood actually is not flowing well because there's constriction in the vessels. Capillaries in the fingertips, and so just running this under some warm water, or actually just holding your finger so it gets warm, will help with that. In my case, I think right now I'm doing okay. We'll see. So I just poke, right, and you want to make sure that you get a deep enough stick. And I barely, I think, got that one, y'all. So let's see if that's going to be enough to get me, because I need 3 drops, right? So I need 2 drops for these guys right now, which I think I can get at least 2. And hopefully by the time that one is running, my finger doesn't clot. All right, so 63, 66 is what these guys are saying. Let me go ahead and pop the test strip out for the glucose and go ahead and put the ketone strip in. And let's see, make sure I got a good drop of blood. And I'm going to go ahead and get this started like I normally do, but I'm not going to show you what those numbers are, right? Because we'll come back and we'll see that, because I want you to guess what you think that is going to be. All right. In the meantime, let's go ahead and we'll move these out of the way, and so I could show you. So this is the Dexcom G7 that I'm going to go ahead and put on here in just a minute. And so on this arm, this is my Dexcom. And on this arm, this is the Libre, right? So the Libre right now, let's see if I can pull that up. Yeah, so Libre down at the bottom, you'll see that it says that this sensor ends in 4 hours, right? So this one's going to have to change as well. Maybe I'll just do both of them. Okay, because I'm going to be going to bed here in a little bit. Well, we'll see. We'll see. So anyway, so this is going to change in 4 hours. And then if I go over to the Dexcom, this one, it says sensor not active. You see there at the top. So this was one I'm going to change right now. And so anyway, so this, let me pop back over here. Okay, so that's where that sensor is, and I'm going to go ahead and just and it really comes off pretty simply, guys. Let's go ahead and pop this off. All right, so basically that's what it looks like when it comes off, and let's see, how about this? All right, so that's what the sensor looks like right there. So get rid of that. And then we're going to go ahead and get this one open. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's see. Get that box open. And in the box usually comes, this is a something that you put on, and it basically keeps it on. I don't usually have to use these, but a lot of people find that when they perspire, when they sweat, that the Dexcom or even some of the others will come off, and they put this over. I don't usually do that. These are basically instructions and some information about it. I'm not going to read through that right now. So this is what that device looks like. Okay. And it's basically a big screw. So go ahead and we're going to screw that apart. When you screw it apart, right in there, right, you'll see that there's a little cannula, a little needle, and then there's the adhesive. And so I'll show you here in just a minute how we go ahead and pop that on. And let me see, do I have... I don't have an old one, but when I pop this on, we'll see what that looks like after that comes out, right? And then, of course, on the side right here is, I don't know if you can see that. That's the QR code and then the code for the meter itself. So let's go ahead and I'm going to pop this on. Let's take a look at this view. And I usually tell people if you make a right angle with your arm, and basically, let me move this over a little bit. Right angle with your arm, and basically put that here. There's a button that you'll press. All right, you see that right there. So you take that button, you pop that in, and you probably heard the click, and then run my finger to make sure that it sticks. Now, if I look into this thing, right, you'll see that that adhesive that was there is gone. Okay, and then let's hop over, and I'm going to grab my phone because I need to, and let's do this. Oh, okay, there's my, those are my things here. So we're going to say we're going to start a new sensor, right, which is what I want to do. So sensor is not active, and it says there's not one there. So I'm going to say start a new sensor. And then it's going to say use your camera to scan the QR code, which I'm going to do. Go ahead and just pop that right there. And it scanned it. And right now it says sensor identified, Dexcom G6. And my new sensor is inserted, so I don't need to go through and how to insert a sensor, but I could do that, right? So if I needed to, I can go in, and right here it gives me all of the little instructions on how to choose a site, depending on age and so forth. Wash my hands, clean off the back, and unscrew it like we just did. Use the applicator, put it in the back of the arm, then remove the applicator. Make sure the sensor is secure. So I just run my finger around it like I showed you. And then I inserted the sensor, right? So let's do that. That's what it's called, the overpatch. So the overpatch, you would apply it on top of the sensor to keep it from falling off because it keeps it more securely, right? Rub your finger around it and so forth. And then say done. And in my case, I'm done. So it says new sensor is inserted. We got that. So let's go here. Sensor is inserted. And right now it says searching for sensor. Right. And it says, hey, do you want to pair this thing? I'm going to say, go ahead and pair it. And it says sensors paired. And now in 25 minutes, so this is the sensor warm-up period. So the Dexcom takes about 30 minutes to warm up. And so right now, that's what that is doing as we speak. So it's going to take 25 minutes, and then I'll get my blood sugar, right? We'll see what the blood sugar is. All right, so in the meantime, while that's going on, let us hop over and let's take a look at what my blood sugars have been doing in the meter or on the report, okay? All right, so that's my report right there, and you'll see, according to this guy, my average blood sugar has been. Give me just a second. Let me get my mouse so you can actually see that. Here we go. All right. So according to this, my average blood sugar has been 107, and that's for the last 14 days. As I always want to do, I'm going to change this to 90 days. So you can see what the 90-day average is. And 114 is what it says my 90-day average is. I'm in target 95% of the time, and that target range is 70 to 180. My glucose management indicator is 6.0, as it shows. And then let's go ahead and take a look at some of these daily graphs. All right, so that'll pull up. And let's go down to Tuesday. So Tuesday, I started fasting right here about 7:30. So blood sugar is 122. So 24 hours later, right at about 7:30, 84 is what it was. So that was yesterday at 24 hours. And then today, past 48 hours, at 7:30, right? So I don't have a number because that's when my sensor ended, and I was waiting to change it here online with you guys. So the last recorded blood sugar I have is from 7:20, which was 72. So once again, we went from 100s down into the 80s and then down into right there at 72. Okay, and then if I hop back over and take a look at my Libre, remember the Libre says that my blood sugar right now was 70. So we'll see what that shows up with here in about 22 minutes. I think is what it said that I needed, right? So 22 minutes. I suppose I could also, yeah, that's for 22 minutes. All right. Okay, so I see, so Jennifer, hey Jennifer says, howdy all. Glad for you coming through, Jennifer. She says, a second live for my, oh, so you were on another live. Okay, well, glad that you could join us on this particular live. Always happy when we see members of our community coming through. And then, of course, over on Instagram, I do see some folks there. So thank you all for stopping by and hanging out with us. And I see my man Kirk Nugent says, hey man, glad that you are here. I do see Matt out there also. I see the Moores. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. All right, so just right now changing my Dexcom, and you guys saw me do that. You know, what I'm thinking is, since I'm changing the Dexcom right now, maybe I'll go ahead also and change the Libre, right? I know it has 4 hours left. I think that's what it said down there at the bottom. Let's see. Yeah, 4 hours. You know what? I'm gonna let that ride for now, right? Who wants to waste time, right? So I'll let that ride for now, and we'll see what that will do later, and I'll change it. So we won't see that here online. All right. So what is the benefit of fasting, right? So that's, a lot of people ask me, what is the benefit of fasting? And fasting has lots of different benefits, but in particular here in this space, what we're looking at, remember who we're talking to. We're talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to put their diabetes in remission, get off of medication. But one of the points that I want to make is that all the things that we do and say for diabetics also are things that are valid for people who have metabolic syndrome, people who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So as you are working, if you're diabetic, you're also improving all of those other areas. If you're not diabetic, the same process that we go through also helps in this case. And one thing that I do want to show, which is what a lot of people want to know, is what happens to weight, right? What happens to my weight? So I'm going to show you that here in just a minute, but let's talk a little bit. So our premise is this, or the three pillars that we want. Number one, decrease insulin, whether you're taking insulin from outside or insulin from inside, right? So your body's producing insulin. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Number two, we want to decrease the appetite, because the things that push us to eat have to do with appetite. And then number three, we want to get rid of, I almost said tree. You want to get rid of as much sugar as possible from the body, the food we eat or things in the body that are producing excess sugar. Now, let's start with insulin. Why is it important to decrease insulin? Insulin is the switch in the body. Anytime insulin is elevated, the body begins to store energy. What does that mean? That means when you eat food, if the food causes a spike in blood sugar, and it does for every single person on the planet, y'all, not just diabetics, because that's what food, particularly if you're eating carbohydrates, that's what food is supposed to do, right? When you eat a grape, or you eat a piece of bread, or you eat some pasta, or you eat a salad, right? What happens is the food, the energy from the food gets extracted, it gets absorbed in the body, and that's what the body uses as energy. That is called glucose, right? So everything that we eat that has carbohydrates in it, right? The ultimate goal is for it to turn into glucose. Now, there are other types of carbohydrates that are out there. So, people talk about fructose and galactose, but ultimately the part of those foods that we can use in the body is glucose, right? So the body extracts the glucose, and when the glucose goes up, the insulin has to go up to maintain normal blood sugar. This is for everybody on the planet. So one of the things that people get annoyed with or don't understand is, even if you're not diabetic, if your weight is increased, if you struggle with obesity, if you struggle with being overweight, if you struggle with that BMI that fluctuates, the reason for a lot of that is directly related to insulin, because insulin is the switch that turns on the storage process in the body. Okay, so when you're doing that, you've got to remember that anytime you eat anything that has carbohydrates, if it causes a spike in blood sugar, then the switch gets turned on and the body begins storing it. Okay, so that's number one. That's one of the reasons for decreasing the amount of insulin. So if you're on medication, if you're on insulin, remember we did a show talking about some medications you should be off. One of the very first ones we talked about was insulin, right? Decreasing the amount of insulin that we're taking. Now, if you're not on insulin and you have your weight is above where it should be, that is actually what we call insulin resistant, right? As the weight goes up, the weight's going up because the insulin is in the process of bringing blood sugar down. And as the body produces more and more and more and more insulin, it now has a difficult time keeping the blood sugars in the normal range. So decrease insulin. Number two, suppress the appetite. Now, insulin also plays a big part in that, because the insulin, once the insulin goes up, it stimulates the appetite. So people say to me, hey, I am ravenous. I can't stop eating. I'm just hungry. One of the reasons is because the insulin is elevated. So even if you've not been diagnosed with diabetes, let me pause there. Even if you've not been diagnosed with diabetes, you can still have elevated insulin because of insulin resistance. So suppressing the insulin, decreasing the amount of insulin, not just helps with weight, but it also helps with appetite. Because if we're not putting things in that are causing spikes in blood sugars, if we don't have a spike in the blood sugar, we don't have a spike in the insulin. If we don't have a spike in the insulin, then our appetite is not as voracious. Okay? And then, of course, number three, the third pillar, is decreasing the amount of sugar. And this has to do with several things. It is not just food. Let me say that again. It is not just food. Now, food is a big part of it, because the things that we eat tend to have carbs, and the carbs will cause spikes in blood sugar. Blood sugar spike causes a spike in the insulin and all the things we just talked about. But remember, if you are stressed, the stress hormone, cortisol, its job is to go out and find energy. So anytime you become stressed, the body sends the cortisol out. The cortisol goes out, and it now finds sugar somewhere in the body. We won't talk about where that sugar is coming from right now, but its job is to find sugar. And so the blood sugar rises as a result of the stress. What did we just say? When the blood sugar rises, what else comes out? That's right, the insulin. Okay, so managing stress in whatever form also helps to manage blood sugars and also helps to manage insulin. If you don't sleep well, the body sees that as a stress. If you're in pain, the body sees that as a stress. If you're depressed or anxious, the body sees all of those as stressors, and the stress hormone, cortisol, comes out and it goes to find sugar. It goes to find energy to help you deal with the stress. Blood sugar goes up, insulin goes up, weight goes up, appetite goes up. Right? So those three pillars: decrease insulin, decrease the appetite, and also decrease the sugar in the body. All right, so the process of fasting. So what does fasting do? Because you're not putting anything in, y'all, there's no spike in the blood sugar. If there's no spike in the blood sugar, then there's no spike in the insulin, and there's no signal for storage. And as soon as the body uses up the stored energy that it has to find energy somewhere else, and that's where we begin burning fat cells. We begin burning the fat, I should say, in the cells, and we're switching over to ketones. So this is a great place for me to hop back over and talk about ketones. What do you think my ketones are going to be? All right, so I've been fasting now for about 51, 52 hours maybe. So let me hop over, and I'm going to pull up my Keto Mojo app, and let's see what my Keto Mojo is saying. So I've got to go hop back over here and turn the meter on. And so while that's coming on, let's go over to the app. And here in a minute, you'll see the app will come up and say that it's syncing. Wow, it pulled that over already. Wow, look at that. Let me see. Let's make sure that's the right number, right? So it's syncing, and it's saying it's pulling everything over. And so, yeah, so right now my ketones are 2.2, right? So 63 for blood sugar, and ketones are 2.2. And let's talk a little bit about ketones. So ketones are the alternate source that the body uses for energy. The alternate source the body uses for energy, so that it's kind of like that hybrid car that uses gas and then also uses the battery, so that when the gas is gone, not an issue, because we can now switch over to the battery. So in the body, at about 16 to 18 hours, the body begins going into that ketosis, the ketone process. At about 24 hours, the stored energy that's in your liver, called glycogen, goes away. And so at that point, the body is mostly then using ketones. It also depends on several factors, and we'll talk about some of those here in just one moment. So 16 to 18 hours, we're starting to switch over to ketones. At 24 hours, the stored energy is pretty much depleted, and the body has to now rely mostly on ketones, which is a great thing, because anytime the ketones are up, that means I'm burning what? I'm burning fat. I'm burning fat out of those fat cells. So when we talk about ketones, ketones that are less than 0.5 considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 is considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 is considered to be therapeutic ketosis. And so if we look now at my graph, so that's what the numbers are right now. But if I look at the graph, you'll see the turquoise line that you're seeing there on the screen. that is a representation of ketones, and then the tan line is the representation of blood sugars. So if I go back, the very first part of that, you see that high part, that was when I ended my fast on Friday of last week. So my ketones were high, 3.8. Remember I said 0.5 is considered in ketosis. Below that is considered normal. So I broke the fast last Friday. My ketones were 3.8 and my glucose at that time was 53. And then I started eating, and notice that the tan line is climbing up. And as the tan line goes up, the turquoise line goes down. What does that mean? That means that my body is now switching back from burning ketones to burning sugar, right? Because now I'm eating. And as the blood sugar, as the ketones go down, blood sugar goes up. And what do you think is going on with my insulin? Well, the insulin is going up as well. And so that process is storing some weight, right? So my weight's probably going up at that time. And my appetite is probably improving or getting better. I shouldn't say improving. So as I started fasting, notice once again, the blood sugar is dropping. And as the blood sugars go down, my ketones are going up and up and up. Let's see, right down there, that was the lowest that they were. And then what we just saw here just a minute ago, 2.2 with a blood sugar of 63, right? So I love when I see those elevated ketones because, y'all, that means that some of this fat that's in these cells right now is going away. So talking about weight, right? Because everybody wants to see that. Let's take a look here and let's see what's been going on. You guys remember seeing these graphs, and this is my weight over the last, 4 or 5 years. This peak right here, that was 260 pounds. That was at January of 2022. I don't have, at one point I was about 285, almost 290 pounds. So January of 2022, that's 260 pounds. This peak right here is July of 2022, 245 pounds. And then this guy was last year, March 3rd of 2023 at 240 pounds. And this was where we began making the decision about what we were going to be doing for this year, right? The whole idea, new year, new you. New year, new you. New year, new you. What were we going to do here on the channel? What were we going to do here in the community? And so we set a goal that if within the year we were going to lose some weight. And we tell people that the weight that we should be losing at a normal pace, right? Sustainable pace, something that you can continue doing long term, is about a half a pound to 1 pound per week. Half a pound to 1 pound per week. So that would mean then that I would need to lose 26 pounds if I'm doing 0.5 to 52 pounds in a year, right? So that's 1 year of 1 pound or half a pound. And so we set out on that trek. And here we were down in September, right? We were down from March to September 220. And then October, we're down to 217. And then down in November, 213. Coming into December, right? And this was getting right around Christmas, 208. 196, that was January. And so for the first time for a long time, I'm below 100 pounds or below 200 pounds. And I think, was it Jennifer? Jennifer, were you saying that that is Wonderland? And I didn't understand what Wonderland is, but Jennifer explained. She's one of our community members that's out there. She said Wonderland is when your weight starts with a 1. When your weight starts at a 1. Okay. And then in, let's see, a year, right? Remember we talked about March. So March of 2024, y'all, March of 2024, 188 pounds, 188.8. Okay. And so that put us right at our weight goal for the year. And here we are today. This is today, May 2nd. We are 188.2 pounds. Okay? So that is a direct result, y'all, of fasting. So what can fasting do? Not only can fasting help with blood sugar, but fasting helps with weight as well. Now, here on the channel, we've been doing a 72-hour fast, and I have people who say to me, oh no, I can't do 72. And I'm not suggesting right now that you start with a 72-hour fast. Right? Wherever you find yourselves, wherever you are, if you sleep for 8 hours and you don't eat during those 8 hours, right? That is great. So start there. So tomorrow, maybe fast 9 hours. And then next week, fast 10 hours and so on and so forth. But the goal over the first several months of this year has been for us to fast for one 24-hour period once a week. And we get all of those benefits that we talk about, right? So fatty liver, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, metabolic syndrome, obesity, all of that gets better as we engage in fasting. And I'm pausing there because I want you to hear it, and I want you to realize that it is a free way. What did I say? Did I say free? Free. Free way of improving all of those metabolic symptoms, all of those metabolic conditions. People ask me all the time, which meal plan should I be on? You know which meal plan? That's free? Fasting. Should I eat low glycemic foods? Yes. You know what's the lowest glycemic food you can get? Nothing. Where does that come from? Fasting. Should I eat a Mediterranean diet, right? Meaning we're cutting back on the carbs. Yeah. You know what's the lowest carb diet you can have? Fasting. Should I be on a ketogenic diet? Hey, you know how to get into ketosis and stay there for a long time? Fasting. I know. You're like, Dr. Woode, you're just being silly, right? I am being silly, but I am also being very deliberate in saying that. Because it is something you can do. You can decide like tomorrow. You can decide right now, actually. We have people who come to the office, and in my office now, I'm playing the videos that we do here on the channel, right? So we used to do some other content in the office, but I say, hey, wait a minute, I got my own content. So we play that in the office, and when people come back to see me, right, they're in the lobby, they're listening, they come back to see me, and they say, hey, can I do this? And I said, sure. And we sit there and we kind of talk about their blood sugars and what we need to do in terms of medication. And you guys have seen here on the channel, right? Some of our community members have come and they have said, like last night, we had one of our members come on and say, hey, his A1C is down to 5.1 and he's off of all of his insulin. Amazing, right? If you go to, let's see, where is that? Let me pop over here. I'm going to pop over and go to our website, right? DwainWoodeMD.com, DwainWoodeMD.com. And I'm going to scroll down here when it says what people are saying, right? So glad I found this. Steve was saying that he's off of all of his medication, right? Sandy up here lost between 80 and 100 pounds. Donald, right, lost about 60 pounds. Right? So all these people are having exciting benefits from the process that we're going through. Just a lot of excitement. So I'm glad for that. All right. So let's hop over. Let's talk a little bit about some of our platforms or some of the things that we're doing. Number one, and actually I think I need to do one more thing here. So number one, the Triple E formula for success. This is what we do here on the channel. I educate, I empower, and I encourage you. Educate, empower, and encourage. Educate, the shows that I do, the podcast, the blog that I do, the handouts, the PDFs, the downloads, the discussions that we have, all of that is with the intention of changing our mindset. Giving information, enlightening, getting you to understand certain things. That's all the education. The empowerment comes from the tools that we teach, right? The HEAT model that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. Fasting is an amazing tool. The 5 whys, right? Learning how to adjust your medication, having the conversation with your doctor. Which medication should I be on? Which one should I stop? All of those are tools, because you can have information, but if the information is not making change, if it's not being if you're not being transformed, then the information is not of use. So education, yes, but also now let's use some of those tools, and we'll talk about that here in just a sec. And then encouragement comes from the support in the community. When you come on, when you talk, when you share your story like Steve did, like Jennifer talked about, and Jennifer, you got to tell us how your fasting went. I think you were doing a 72-hour fast, right? When you come on and you share your story, then other people say, hey, I can do this as well. Okay? That's a triple E formula for success. That's what we do here on the channel. The HEAT model is a model of how and why we break our fast, why we get off of our meal plan, why we eat the things we say we were going to eat. These are the triggers. These are the habits that we're involved with. You know, it's noon, so I'm going to eat, even though I'm not hungry. We're going to go watch a movie, so I'm going to eat, even though I'm not hungry. Let's go see a ball game. Let's get together with friends. Let's go play some cards. Let's go bowling. And we've associated food with those specific things. And so we eat because of that. Number 2, we eat because of emotions. And here's a kicker, y'all. I know. I'm going to come back over here so you can actually see me full screen. Right? A lot of people balk against this. The emotions that you go through are so strong that they will force you, they will push you, they will cajole you into eating when you've decided that you're not going to eat. When you get depressed, when you become anxious, when you become lonely, when you become tired, when you're frustrated, when you're bored, those emotions are so strong that cookie that's sitting over there that you say you're not going to eat, or that ice cream, or that whatever it is, you're going to eat it. And so the trick is not to fight the food, y'all. Come on. I want you to listen to me. The trick is not to fight the food. The trick is to figure out what the emotion is that's driving. What is the emotion that is driving your desire for the food? Because if we fix that process, right? If you're lonely and all of a sudden you're not lonely anymore, guess what? There's no reason to eat the cookie. If you're frustrated or depressed or anxious, and we deal with those, we find ways of dealing with those, then all of a sudden the ice cream loses its appeal. So emotions, another reason why we eat, one of the triggers. And then access. We eat sometimes just because it's there. We go into the kitchen, we go into the pantry, and there's that bowl of fruits, there's that bag of chips, there's that candy on the coworker's desk that we walk by. We're not hungry, but it's just there, so we eat it. And then we eat because of taste. And this one is very interesting because it involves a lot of the other 3. We eat because of taste. And the taste is not that we like that taste necessarily, but the taste does something for us. The taste reminds us of a different time. The taste takes us back somewhere, someplace that was pleasant. The taste takes us to a place of comfort. Remember, just enough fat, just enough sugar, just enough carbs, or just enough fat, sugar, and salt, right? That bliss point, that's what the manufacturer is going for. They're trying to get you, when you eat that one chip, or that one piece of candy, you're like, oh man, I can't just have one of these. I got to have more. But it also is the thing that takes us to that space. So what triggers us? Those are the things that cause us to be triggered, y'all. That is the heat model, right? The heat model, those things that drive us in a direction that we normally said that we weren't going to go. All right. And so Jennifer, I think Jennifer just popped in here. Actually, I see somebody. So G. Albert, he said, Libre, Dexcom. We'll have to check it out. Yes, right. So I did a show. I did some videos actually on my channel that talked about both the Libre and the Dexcom. And G. Albert says, you mean versus a 2 or 3? I think, G. Albert, I think you're probably talking about the Libre 2 or the Libre 3. This is actually a Libre 3 that I have on that I'm going to be changing a little later on. The Dexcom is actually a G7, right? So I do have a couple of G6s here, but I'm using the G7 because I like the updated technology. All right. And then Jennifer says, actually, it was a 75-hour, much easier than the last time. Feel great. Drop some of my weight, regained from my family trip. Oh, man, Jennifer, here we go. All right. So Jennifer says 75 hours, y'all. Look at that. 75 hours, and she dropped some weight. If you remember, Jennifer was telling us she went on a family trip and is getting back into the process, right? So Jennifer, just very proud of you. Awesome. All right. And so what is our call to action? Call to action, right? Remember the heat model there? And our call to action is this. Number 1, join the challenge. Join the challenge, y'all. So as we go through the various exercises, go through the shows, go through the check-ins, go through the weeks, right? We have these challenges every month. We're going to have a challenge that's coming up. Remember, our last challenge from last month was to create a meal that fit these criteria, something that was non-processed, didn't have a whole lot of sugar, starchy and non-starchy vegetables, lean protein, healthy fat, that was tasty, and that was the appropriate portion size. That was our challenge from last month. Every month we have these challenges. So don't just let the information be something that is on the shelf. You listen to the show and then oh yeah, I'm done with that. No, this is what we want you to do. This is the place that we want you to be in, because you want to make sure that you are putting those things into practice. Okay? So join the challenges. Do them. If you're finding us here now and it's July or September or April or whenever, or it's next year, don't think that you've missed out. Start from where you are. Join the challenges. Number 2, show up. Come to the show. Let us know. Like Jennifer's saying, 75 hours. Like Steve was saying yesterday, off of his medication, A1C of 5.1. All of that in the community. When you share your successes, everybody around you say, okay, if they can do it, if Jennifer can do it, if Steve can do it, if G. Albert can do it, I can do it as well. And when we hear your places of struggle, then we know we're not by ourselves, and we can all rally around each other and we can move forward. And then invite somebody to the show. Right now, there are, at this moment, over 1 billion people on the planet that are either diabetic or pre-diabetic. We're not also talking about people who have coronary artery disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, polycystic ovarian syndrome, who struggle with obesity. All of that can improve here with the information. And so you can be a voice to help your community, help your family, change the dynamic within your family. A lot of us have family members. We've got diabetes that are running rampant. We've got people who are dying at an early age. We've had people in the office come to say to me that my dad died at 50, my grandfather died at 50, my cousin died at 50, my uncle died at 50, and my goal is just to be 51. Now, that's an admirable goal, but how about we extend that many, many, many more years? Just because there's a family history of something does not mean that you have to succumb to the disease, y'all. Right? So invite somebody, share with them a link, let them know that we're here. Say to them, hey, let's go watch these shows together. They're all out there. They're on the channel. They're in the playlist, How to Reverse Your Diabetes, How to Fast Successfully, tools to help you fast. All of those are there on the show or on the YouTube channel, and you can get out there and you can take a look at them. But man, I'm just so excited to be here. As always, glad that I could spend some time with you. Glad that you are here with me, right? Because you are part of my accountability group, y'all. Right? When I want to eat that cookie or that candy, I said, wait a minute. My team is out there and they're doing it. And we're going to be doing that check-in, right? And we're going to be showing all these numbers. So you're part of my accountability. So thank you for holding me accountable as we do here in the community. As always, this is Dr. Dwain Woode, y'all. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you. We will see you at our check-in tomorrow. We're going to be probably a little early. I'm not sure yet, early or late. We'll let you know because we're going to be moving around as we get ready for our presentation coming up on Saturday. But we will see you here on the channel for a check-in, and we'll see you on our live Monday night, 7 o'clock Central. Good night, everybody. Have a great evening.